Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. Special edition today. Again, we have the CEO this time of the Bell Project that will join us to talk more about that great organization, what it's doing for so many folks. So stay tuned this morning. But of course, lots and lots of headlines, lots of news. We try to keep it here where it's just we don't weigh you down too much, but there's just some things, unfortunately, you simply can't ignore, like the situation there in Louisiana. Just again, coming off the Justin Fairfax situation, it is definitely, folks, time to have a very, very serious, straightforward conversation about mental health, and particularly Black males. Um, Maybe a town hall or something. And this is where you hope that the Black press lives up to its creed, um, that they can put something together. The leaders there can put something together because it's definitely, definitely needed. Again, we saw what happened with Justin Fairfax, and there's always, of course, the vulnerable Black women um, who are falling. It's falling on them. They are falling prey to this, unfortunately. But Louisiana, this deranged, unhinged man killed 8 little children, 8, in a domestic violence shooting in Shreveport. He then carjacked a vehicle at gunpoint, obviously, or apparently. This man here. And police said he was fatally shot afterwards, but he's identified as Shamar Elkins, who was 31 years old. And this shooting was carried out across 3 homes. RG says, I've never seen this so bad. Florida, Virginia, now in Louisiana. Some Black men can't handle rejection. And yeah, all because a woman no longer wants you. And the guy had, and right, there's the Florida incident with the lawmaker and her husband going bananas, ending her life. But this guy, Elkins, he shot a woman. He had a girlfriend too. This is what it's crazy. He shot a woman at a home near Harrison Street before heading to another house on West 79th Street where he killed all of the children. He was the father of 7 of the 8 children. The other one was a friend. And that 8th child, trying to get away, was shot and killed on the roof. Another child jumped off the roof and he survived. Well, that child survived. And there were 2 women identified as this guy's wife, the mother of the 7 children, and his girlfriend. They were also shot and suffered serious injuries. So, again, you hate speculation, but it sounds like perhaps the wife found out about the girlfriend found out about the wife. They wasn't the only ones. A teenager was also injured, and police say he has non-threatening injuries at the moment. These kids were just between the ages of 1 and 12 years old. This heartless, gutless guy taking out 1-year-olds. 3 of the victims were boys and 5 were girls. It's the biggest mass shooting since 2024 in the United States. And one of the women's cousin, a woman named Crystal, said that they were in the midst of separating, that Elkins and his wife were separating. They were due in court today. This guy, he simply couldn't take it. that the wife had made her decision apparently, and it sounds like she made a decision based on what you did wrong. But again, the mental health aspect, and not this is not in any way whitewashing what happened at all, but this discussion has to happen. This community discussion, this serious therapeutic style conversation, it's gotta happen. We we have seen too much of this, and we keep hearing, "Well, you the stigma." What's worse? What's worse? Having to deal with the aftermath or try and do something before we get to this point? What happened here, somewhere along the line, it would appear that it was, you know, you heard with the Justin Fairfax situation that folks knew that he was off the chain, that he had lost it long before he did the dastardly deed that he did. That is, and it's not blaming anyone other than the perpetrator, but the conversation has to happen. The children were trying to run from their father as he was shooting and killing them. Imagine that. Who raised him? RNG says, right. That is this generation who claims nobody is listening to them and all they do is complain. And I'm telling you, I'm not disagreeing with that. I am just I am totally, totally in agreement there. I mean, yes, our generation. I'm pretty sure Orangey and I are in the same generation, around the same age. Our generation, yeah, we were among the perpetrators of, "Oh, just go out and play or go, do this or do that." However however, our generation, we didn't it didn't push us anywhere near the edge that, "Oh, he's making fun of me," or "I'm disappointed," or "Nobody's listening." We have my grandmother once said when she was alive, and she said this in the '80s. She said, "Every generation gets smarter but weaker." And I have said that since, and I've seen in my view, I've seen that to be very true. People say, "Oh, you can't say that. You can't." Why not? Why not? Why not? Because that's the problem. Nobody wants to have an honest conversation, but it's true. Every generation, you kids today are extreme the young ones today, extremely smart, but in general, extremely weak. Gotta have validation, and social media certainly does not help. But if folks start being content with what they have and not be envious in any way of somebody else's, you might find yourself in a better spot. This this has it's just you talk about like the United Neg not the United Negro College Fund, National Urban League puts out the State of Black America. Even Al Sharpton's group, NAN, puts out recently put out some sort of State of Black America, and they tend to focus on the financial and the politics. There has to be these so-called leaders, and I'm not dissing them by saying so-called, because some of them don't want that title of leader. So these so-called leaders, they have to look at They should have been looking at this. They have to start looking at this with a deeper lens. 'Cause what I'm tired of hearing is, "Oh, we black folks have a, multi-trillion-dollar spending power, blah, blah, blah." So what? That's not paying my bills. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. That's what where it counts. Where it counts. It's so disheartening. I don't even know these folks, but I know these I know that there are 8 kids involved. And here's what else is going on in this messed up, wacky world that, has unfolded. Federal inspectors have cited at least 7 Ohio nursing homes in, uh, recent years for discharging vulnerable residents directly to homeless shelters. It's a practice involving patients who are often elderly, medically fragile, and lacking family or support systems. We don't care about the kids, we don't care about the elderly in this country anymore. And one documented case, a woman using a walker, suffering from diabetes, a fractured leg, and alcohol-related dementia, was dropped off at a shelter confused and unaware of what was happening. Uh, and she was carrying a bag of medications and was left waiting behind dozens of others for help. Staff at the facility had not secured appropriate medical placement or coordinated care before sending her away, which, of course, raised serious concerns among regulators about patient safety and oversight. Advocates and regulators say the problem appears to be growing, driving or driven in part by financial pressures on nursing homes and insurance coverage cuts that lead or have led facilities to discharge patients once payment stops. It's all about the money. And now they're reporting a big uptick in such cases. And they've warned that shelters are not equipped to handle people who may require complex care, including managing multiple medications or mobility limitations. In several instances, discharged patients were given little more than short-term medication supplies and no clear care plan, putting it all on the shoulders of shelters. But once again, this country has gotten to the point where kids don't matter, elderly don't matter, and if you're disabled in any way, you're also thrown away. We're preoccupied with wars and bills and legislation to oppress people instead of saying, "Hey, this is a country that is more than able to help folks," but we continue to do the opposite, and that's where it's at. Have the nursing home do this, it's absolutely, diabolical. And we have some other news coming out of my hometown, my borough, of Queens. A man believed to be involved in the shooting death of Jam Master Jay is expected to plead guilty to his role in the case. According to court records, Jay Bryant, who originally pleaded not guilty to murder following a 2023 indictment, has negotiated a plea agreement with federal prosecutors. Bryant was the lone man who had not yet faced trial for Jay's murder, which took place in 2002 inside his recording studio in Jamaica, Queens. According to prosecutors, DNA that belongs to Bryant was discovered on a hat inside the studio. If Bryant were to plead guilty during the change of plea hearing on April 22nd, he would still be able to change his mind about the plea when he goes to court, according to several officials. They didn't indicate in court documents which charge or charges that Bryant would be pleading to. But we do know that Carl Jordan Jr. and Ronald Washington were both convicted in 2024 for their roles in the murder of Jam Master Jay. But Jordan's conviction was later thrown out after it was believed there wasn't enough proof that he, the godson of JMJ, held enough animosity toward him to kill him. That it was just a weird ruling. As far as Washington, his guilty verdict was upheld after the judge stated that she believed he had there was sufficient evidence to convict him after he was allegedly upset over a planned drug deal that was to take place in Baltimore that ultimately did not happen. Jordan, of course, remains in jail on an unrelated drug charge, despite his family and friends securing a $1 million bail package for him to be released in relation to the Jam Master Jay killing. Of course, federal prosecutors have long argued that the killing of Jam Master Jay was drug related. Boy, and what a talent! What a shame. You know, his murder came a few years after Biggie and Tupac. It's just really a crying shame that folks are, this rap game. Whew, I tell you, I'm gonna switch gears. Eddie Murphy. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Dolby Theater this weekend in Los Angeles. He called it a special moment and said he wished everyone could feel what he's feeling and see what he's seeing. Um, he said he was going to go backstage and cry before he accepted the award. Eddie was met with a standing ovation, stepping on stage and moving through the ballroom as the applause followed. Along the way, he passed Spike Lee, Martin Lawrence, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, Arsenio Hall, Judge Reinhold, all of them there to pay tribute to Eddie Murphy. Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Eva Longoria, Divine Joy, Randolph, and Keenan Thompson are all going to be part of a special on Netflix next month about this honor for Eddie Murphy. We know Eddie has moved from this teenage stand-up sensation to the breakout force he was in Saturday Night Live. They got they've been running that Buckwheat series from Saturday Night Live lately on TikTok, and it's it's as hilarious today as it was in the 1980s. Of course, he did films like Beverly Hills Cop, um, Coming to America, Nutty Professor. Of course, 48 Hours was the first one. I ran into a guy yesterday, speaking of, at Starbucks. Um, and while we were waiting for our order, he was on the phone with someone. He seemed like he was, and I didn't get his name. He didn't even get mine, but it seemed like he was someone in the entertainment industry. But anyway, he was on the phone talking to someone about Eddie, and him and I got into a conversation. And I know that there's a lot of people who believe that Eddie should have by now won an Academy Award. And me and this gentleman were very much in agreement that while Eddie has done some exceptional things, I, for one, have not been convinced. I think his work it speaks for itself, but doesn't mean he deserves an Academy Award. you got a lifetime achievement award. It's like I'm so tired of things being watered down. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, everybody gets in now. Sports Hall of Fame, everybody gets in now. You know, especially the NFL. Everybody gets in. To me, it waters it down. And it's not saying now. Of course, you can make an argument that Eddie deserves an Academy Award. I'm of the school that he does not. I like Eddie. Nobody, this is no dislike toward him. But the idea that just because they have, he's done great things. His stand-ups, the movies, the series, the Coming to America series, the one role that I think makes the strongest argument was that was it Cadillac Records or something like that. I mean, he's done some great work. I just don't see Oscar written on those works. But that's just me. That's just me. But it's good to talk about something like that than it is mass shootings, than it is the Strait of Hormuz. you know, but this going back, these mass shootings, these incidents, folks, there are hotlines, and this really speaks to the individuals who are committing these acts or losing control. It may not be a community thing, but there are hotlines. There are professionals you can talk to. And in this case, again, as we've been talking about this morning, you see what happened in Florida with the lawmaker and her husband, Justin Fairfax in Virginia, and now this Louisiana situation. Um, there is help available. That's the upside, is that there's help available. If you are considering anything rash, if you feel like you have nowhere else to turn, there are hotlines. Please reach out. The answer is not murder suicide. It never will be, never was. The answer is not ending the lives of 1-year-old, 5-year-old, 8-year-olds, and 12-year-olds. And then your spouse or soon to be ex-spouse. There are hotlines. There are more than just the neighborhood barbershop. We've got to do better. We really do. And I just urge the leadership of the Black press, especially, to put together conferences, put together town halls for other things, for politicians, um, for programs. I urge the Urban League. I urge the NAACP and all these organizations who call themselves leaders to say, hey, we got to stop talking about Black people have the $2 trillion spending power. Who cares? Who cares? We know racism exists. We know that. We don't need to be beat over the head every day from the NAACP and others about how racism is affecting us this way, that way. We know, we get it. And we know we have to continue to find ways to combat that. But it's high time that you put front and center mental health and mental health awareness. All you leaders or so-called leaders or wannabe leaders, you boycott Target, you boycott this, well, how about getting your community together? How about saying, hey, we keep seeing this. We've seen it way too many times. One time was enough. Now, yesterday we have the biggest mass shooting since 2024, and it's domestic related. This man was not allowed, but this man went house to house, 3 houses, and killed people in 3 houses, all related in some way. They were his 8 of them, or 7 of the 8, or 8 of the 9, whatever it was his kids. His wife and girlfriend. That tells you everything you need to know right there. Wife and girlfriend. He shoots both of them. We gotta get out in front of stuff, the important things. Everything else will take care of itself. And I tell you what, I'm gonna segue because I'll tell you who does get out in front of things. And that is the Bell Project, folks. They have been getting out in front of things for a long time and they could use your help. They have helped over 40,000 families, folks, because this cash bail system has always been oppressive to many, particularly the people of color. And they have stepped in. They have asked for nothing in return. They have tried, and they continue to push for legislation that rights these wrongs. David Gaspar is the chief executive officer of the Bell Project, and April is National Second Chance Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness about the challenges faced by individuals with criminal records and promoting opportunities for their successful reentry into our society. Welcome to Let It Be Known, David Gaspar. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Really appreciate the work you guys do, have for a long time. David, you served 10 years of a 20-year sentence before winning your own appeal, and you since have done something tremendous, dedicated your life to changing the system from the inside out. And we recently published a powerful op-ed that you did, titled 20 Years After Prison, I'm Fighting to Give Others Their First Chance. And in it, you argue that most people don't just need a second chance, they need the first chance they were never given. Let's dive into that, David. Um, to get us, well, to get us started, can you tell our listeners a bit about your journey and how your own experience with the justice system led to you to lead the work of the Bell Project today?
Yeah, absolutely. I, you know, I just celebrated recently my 20-year anniversary of being released from freedom or released from prison. And I say celebrated in a very generic way because there was no celebration there. There was just a lot of reflection. Around the same time, my wife and I also celebrated our 20-year anniversary being together. And she was asking me, she was like, "Well, do you want to do something special for your release anniversary?" And I was like, "Nah, actually, I don't. That is nothing that I want to celebrate in my life." And what it did, though, is it caused me to reflect. It caused me to really think about my time in prison, but also my life as a whole. And when I say that many people are just looking for their first chance, that's what I found in my story. And it was somewhat of a self discovery.
Mm,
First time that I was removed from my mother's custody, I was 5 years old. I had police putting me in the back of a police car. That was my first experience that I ever remember. It's just literally sitting in the back of a police car, screaming, crying, and no compassion, no care, no nothing. And then my mother gets me back, 7 years old. I'm in a coma for 2 weeks from an accidental drug overdose. Then 6 months later, I'm shot for the very first time.
mm,
And you know, life continued to kind of be on that level of just experiencing hardship with my mother and my stepfather, seeing how poverty really impacted us. And I live in this weird world where I'm Mexican, but I look white, and there are certain, instances where, people treat me differently until it comes to the criminal legal system.
mm.
And then once you're in their grasp, things really start to shift. And so for me, I found myself reflecting on what actually led me to have engagement with law enforcement in the first place that caused me to go to prison. But what really, really lit the fire inside of me was I got arrested with an eighth grade education. I got arrested with two children. I was 22 years old, being told I was facing 68 years in prison.
Ooh.
I didn't know any better. All I knew was that I'm in this jail. I'm looking for something. I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for an answer. And
Okay.
all I'm getting is this punishment. And the punishment, it exists long before the actual sentencing itself. The punishment
Right.
happens on day one of becoming incarcerated in jail. And I went to prison and something just didn't feel right in my soul. And I took a plea bargain. So everybody was telling me, sit down, shut up, do your time. You ain't got a chance. You waived your right to an appeal. But there was something in my soul that told me that this isn't right. Like, I don't feel like this is justice. This doesn't feel like I deserve this level of punishment. I didn't even hurt anybody. Granted, I did wrong things. And I want to acknowledge that. But it wasn't like I was in prison for 21 years for murder, for assault, for
Right.
doing some burning somebody's house down, or and it just didn't feel right. And so I went to got my education, got my GED, went into law library. I taught myself law, and I fought my appeal for years. I went to the state Supreme Court twice, and I won my appeal both times.
And
And
you didn't have a lawyer?
no lawyer. Yeah.
Wow.
And that journey, that reflection just really let me know two things. One, that my story was still mine to write.
Hmm.
And two, how many people are sitting in jail that experienced what I experienced, where they went there not knowing any better, any different, accepted what the court, their public defender, what the state was willing to put in front of them. And as a consequence, had something very unjust happen to them. And when I say very unjust, the state Supreme Court ruled in my case that my charging document itself was unconstitutional. My charging document wasn't even correct. And that's why my conviction, my sentence, nothing else could stand, because the beginning of the process was incorrect. That them telling me I was facing 68 years was incorrect. Them telling me that a 21-year plea bargain, 20-year, 9-month plea bargain was the best that they could do for me. No protection from my defense, no protection from the judge. You would think somebody would flag this, like, hey, this ain't right. And
Right.
that was never the case. And so when I came home, first things first, have to, take care of my family, got to be there, want to get the job, want to raise my kids. And I was able to successfully do all of that. And then my wife and I, I had been volunteering. We agreed that when our youngest children turned 18, that I would then go into doing the work that I really had the heart and the passion for. And this is where I was able to turn my pain into passion and pursue what I see as justice and as what we all say are American values,
Yeah.
through and through.
Wow. And so what you were able to show, and again, that's why I had to emphasize you didn't even have a lawyer, but what you had to show, what you showed was how this system is really prone to error. Can you connect that personal fight to the mission of the Bell Project?
Yeah, absolutely. Sitting in sitting in custody, you obviously, or at least for me, it felt obvious. You take a
Right.
lot of time to do self-reflection. You take a lot of time to really, analyze who you are and who you want to be. And I always knew in my heart, even prior to going to prison, I always did what I could for my family. I always did what I could for my friends. I always wanted to make sure that they had a little bit better than what they were able to get for themselves. I understood what the struggle looked like when I was with my early age, 5, 6, around 6 years old. My mother finally got me back. Me, her, and my stepfather were living inside his brother's pantry. Like, that was our
Mm.
whole bedroom, our house. That's where we kept our clothes, our food, in a pantry. And that just always like encouraged me to want something better for myself, but something better for the others around me. Seeing your mother like that, seeing your stepfather like that, it just really it messes with you in a strange way to want better, but to also blur the line on what does it take to get better. And to see the reality and the struggles that people are having around you and how you absorb that and how it kind of becomes part of you. I wanted to be able to contribute to a mission that really saw the humanity. It really saw the person, saw the father, the mother, the grandfather, the grandmother, the brother, the sister, and wanted to elevate them, not
Right.
by doing for them, but by helping them see in themselves what they're capable of, by helping them see. And I have a tattoo on my wrist that says, I am proof. And I love to just tell them, like, I am proof of what you can do for yourself. I am proof of what you can become. I am
Yeah.
proof that everything we've experienced that has caused us pain or hardship or has even set us back, we still have a chance as long as we've been given that next day of breath, life, and sunshine. We can actually do something and change our lives for the better. And that's really what helped me gravitate towards the Bell Project, because this is the spirit, it's the heart of the mission. Let's bring people home, prove the point that cash money isn't necessary for people to return, but then also give people that compassion and that support and opportunity that they need to be able to turn the corner so that they can have better as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned you mentioned you talk about first chances versus second chances. Why is that distinction so vital?
It's vital, especially here in America. We are born and raised with the belief that this is the land of equal opportunity, that this is the land where you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can actually make something of yourself, and success is just one hard day's work away. And there is some truth to that,
Hmm.
and I liken it to a checkerboard or a chessboard. The board itself doesn't change, but how you get set on that board makes the world of difference. If you get put on that board as a checker piece, you're automatically disadvantaged. If you get put on that board as a chess piece, your world, your life, your experience changes immediately.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
you automatically, even if you're a pawn, you already have kings and queens that support you and back you up. You have castles and rooks and bishops. Like, you have an army of support around you that can help you get to the other side of the board. But if you're a checker piece, you're fighting your way to the other side just to become a king, just to be able to have a little bit more movement, but you're still limited. You'll never be the queen. You'll never be able to move on every piece. You'll never be able to move laterally or horizontally or vertically. You are just going to be a king on a checkerboard. And for
Uh-huh.
me, when we're talking about first chances versus second chances, where was my first chance leading up to prison? I didn't have the opportunities that others saw. I didn't have the stability in my life that others saw. I don't know how many children are 7 years old going through physical therapy for a year and a half because
Yeah.
they just need to learn how to walk right again. It's like those things start to shape how people see potential in their lives. And what I want to
Mm.
be able to do is remind people that second chances implies that you failed. Second chances imply that you had all the opportunity of a chessboard and you threw it away. And that's just not the truth. A second
Mm.
chance implies that the first chance was offered. And what I want to remind people is that first chances are still waiting to be seen and be realized in people's lives. And that's what we want to offer at the Bell Project.
Hey, how long did it take you to have this type of resolve to say, listen, I got to fight for my, not just my case, but now I'm going to go and fight for other people, so many others. Because again, as we said at the top, the Bell Project has helped over 40,000 families with this. How long did it take you to say, okay, get your mind together where you could do this?
There was a moment when I was incarcerated and I was feeling down and out. I was like, I'm not going to see my children graduate. I'm not going to see the milestones in life. Probably won't see my first grandchild be born. And I just had this, I don't want to refer to it as an epiphany as if I'd never thought about it before, but it never hit me the way that it did in this particular moment. And that was the hardships that I experienced before I ever even reached the age of 8. Being shot, being removed from my mother's parent, being in a coma. I was like, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be here, and I have a purpose to serve. And it really was when I got shot. And I remember, sitting in that doctor's office and them having a conversation with my mother in front of me. And they're like, if we remove the bullet, we'll permanently damage his muscles and he won't be able to walk right ever again. If we leave it in there, with therapy, he'll be able to walk again, but he won't be able to run, ride a bike, jump, play sports, or any things that other kids do growing up. And that was always in my head. But what I loved about me being 7 years old when I heard that is that it never landed for me. And so
Right.
even though it hurt, once I was able to walk, guess what? I'm out there trying to ride my friend's bike. Once I'm able to, I'm out there trying to run just like they're running. I'm trying to play just like they're playing. I want to, and don't get me wrong, there was pain associated with it. I used to cry myself to sleep some nights because my legs would just hurt so bad. But I
Mm,
remember I got through it.
right.
And it just kind of like, to that resolve, like it let me know, like, yes, this probably is going to hurt, but it's worth it. And when I get out on the other side, I'm not just going to walk. I'm going to learn how to ride that bike again. I'm going to learn how to run. I'm going to learn how to jump. I'm going to learn how to fight for people that can't do it for themselves until they can. And that's where that kind of came from. And honestly, it really started to settle in. As soon as I won that first round with the Supreme Court, then I started working on other people's cases too. I'm like, look, this will work for you too. And I actually, in the moment, it's a double-edged sword. I'm watching people go home before me,
Right.
and I'm happy for them, but I'm also like, man, that
Yeah.
should have been me. But it just felt so good to see people have justice, and
Right.
everything that we're about. We're not trying to say that people shouldn't be held accountable. We're just saying that justice should look appropriate and should be applied fairly across everybody, and money shouldn't be a driver for that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with the Bell Project because I keep saying that when they say you're presumed to be innocent, why is it that they're putting this type of bail on you that many people can't meet, and they're pretty much, to me, it sounds like they're saying you're guilty and you got to prove yourself innocent, but that's not what the Constitution says. But you were threatened with 68 years for a first time offense. When you heard 68 years, they, I mean, it takes me back to that movie Life with Martin
Mhm.
Lawrence and Eddie Murphy, and they're standing before the judge and they hear this 1,000-year sentence. Um, 68 years. What was your initial thought with that? I mean, it had to be just you're young and, as they say, whole life ahead of you. 68
Mhm.
years now, all of a sudden you don't have your life ahead of you.
Absolutely. When I first heard it, I, in that moment, 22 years old, just even trying to wrap your head around what 68 years looks like, it sounds no different than you're going to serve life in prison.
Right.
Like, just go ahead and just a question to that fact, like you're not going nowhere, and I it didn't feel right at the time. It didn't even
Mhm.
sit right for me. But I'm talking to my defense attorney, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty bad, but we should be able to get a plea bargain though. They always start high, they'll come low. And I'm like, okay, man, I hope you're right, and he came back, whatever time period he came back, and he's like, yeah, they're offering 20 years, 9 months, and 10 years of that will be with no good time, meaning that there's no credit. Like you got to serve 10 years flat, and then you got to
Mm.
serve 10 years, 9 months, and you'll get some good time off of that.
Wow.
So I would have served a little over 17 years of my 20-year, 9 month sentence. And I just remember having a conversation with them, like, is this real? Like, is this the best? Like, can we hold out a little bit more? It's like, if you hold out and you go to trial, they're going to end up giving you 68. And then at that time, you don't know that they might ask for more. They might ask for an enhanced sentence. And so I'm getting this fear mongering in my
Mhm.
head. And once again, not understanding the system, not understanding how the mechanics of it work. Like it's intended to be a pressure cooker. It's intended to make you think that the worst can happen, and therefore you need to settle for whatever they're putting in front of you. And what I try to explain to people that I have the opportunity to talk to is that when I was 22 years old and ignorant, I took a 20-year, 9 month plea bargain because I thought it was the best thing that I had in front of me. And when I started winning my appeal, I promise you, I swore I'll never take a plea deal again. They will have to. Like, I would serve the rest of my life in prison before I take another. And I came back on my appeal. And remember, I shared that my charging document was unconstitutional. Therefore, nothing else could
Mhm.
stand upon it. including that plea bargain.
Yep.
And when I came back, the state was supposed to recharge me. They were supposed to create a new charging document. I sat in jail for 8.5 months. They not one time amended any of the language. They didn't take out an and, a the. They didn't replace a or with with. They changed nothing about my charging document itself. But when they came around 8.5 months later with that plea bargain for time served, I was like, let me go home. I said, let me go home. I had
but
enough.
but
It,
being I'm sorry, David, but being stuck in jail for bail, how does that impact a person's case?
it's exactly I hear people say all the time, if they weren't guilty, they wouldn't plead guilty. And I'm like, you don't understand when you get arrested and you see your life unraveling in front of you, when you see that your kids are crying themselves to sleep because you're not there to tuck them in, or you're hearing about it on the phone, or you know that if you don't get out within 3 days, you're going to lose your job. And you know, if
Yep.
you don't come home within 2 weeks, you ain't going to be able to afford your rent. And if you, it's like those pressures start to weigh on people. And the same fight that I said that I had, and I would never take another plea bargain, when you're sitting in that moment and you're watching your life unravel before your eyes, and you know that you were already struggling before you came into that jail cell, you'll do whatever you need to do to get out there to just cling on to what little you have left.
Yeah.
And that's the power of having a cash bail above your head. If I already didn't have the money, if I was already living paycheck to paycheck, and now you told me my bail was $500, you might as well told me it was 5 million.
Right.
There was no
Right.
way that I was going to be able to afford that to begin with. If I had $500, I probably wouldn't be struggling as much as I am. And
Yeah.
so helping people understand that, like, it doesn't matter if you're innocent. It doesn't matter if you would have even got the same amount of time that you agreed to. At the end of the day, that plea bargain is the only lever you have to go back out there and to reconnect and grasp on to whatever you have left of your life.
Yeah, and as noted a few times now, the Bell Project has supported more than 40,000 people with a 92% return rate to court. What does that tell you about the need for cash bail?
First and foremost, it tells us that it's not needed. If people are going to come back and it's not because they got money on the line, that means that people genuinely want to see closure to this particular period of their life. People don't want to evade law. People just simply can't afford to get out. And that is a strong, strong thing that we all have to process. That if we are going to hold people in jail indefinitely because they can't afford their freedom, then we also have to hold ourselves responsible for the harms that they're coming back home to as well. When they are losing their house, and when they are getting set further behind, when they potentially lost custody of their children and now they're fighting to get them back. Those are all repercussions of somebody sitting in jail unnecessarily, when we have proven time and time again that 92% rate proves that people will come back because they want to. They want to have closure. What it
Yeah.
also proves is that when you give people compassion and you give them opportunity and support, now you can actually see them start to take advantage and move their lives forward, move their families along, be stronger community contributors, and actually see change start to take root. Because the more people that understand what it takes to succeed, the more we can continue to support each other, as I have, in succeeding. And that's what this number really proves, is that at the end of the day, people are sitting in jail unnecessarily. The money is not the catalyst that's driving them back. It's compassion, opportunity, and support.
Wow. And David, before we let you go, what does this I'm sorry, for our listeners, let's do that. For our listeners, for those watching who want to support this shift toward first chances, where should they go?
Well, first and foremost, I would encourage everyone to go to Black Press Media USA and read my story. And then everyone can also join this mission by going to bailproject.org.
Absolutely, David. The great work that you guys do, it is appreciated, and we are so glad to be able to help you guys push that message, how important it is when it comes to this cash bail situation. Thanks for what you do, and the resolve that you have shown, the strength you've shown, is very inspiring. Thanks a lot, David Gaspar.
Yeah, thank you as well.
Oh, wow. Folks, support the Bell Project. Go to bellproject.org. And you can also go to their YouTube page and see all the different uh, videos of the stories. And then there's also celebrities like Carmelo Anthony, um, and others that really help you to appreciate why we all need to support the Bell Project. So check them out. Go to bellproject.org. The stories there are amazing, and we are capturing them, as David kindly said, at blackpressmediausa.com. Check it out there as well. But whatever you do, support them, because this is work that needs to be done, needs to be supported, and needs to continue until there is complete reform with this cash bail situation. One last thing today, folks. Ebony Magazine has a great article and guide that lists emergency protocols for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, minorities, in essence, who travel abroad. You've got to really check it out because it gives some extremely helpful tips, protocols, really more so than tips. Um, it's called a crisis response guide. And some of the key takeaways in this crisis response guide is to prepare for emergencies with local emergency numbers, travel insurance, and U.S. Embassy contacts. Know your rights if you're detained, document details, remain calm, and avoid signing unknown documents. Use technology like GPS enabled phones, social media, and local networks for safety and support. And they give you the emergency medicals, as you can see. Uh, if you're detained or accosted by law enforcement, it's telling you never sign documents you're not familiar with. Getting lost or losing contact, it gives you various scenarios there. It's a great guide. I really am happy that Ebony Magazine did this. This is really some cool information to check out. So check them out. We've been talking about Black and minority residents who travel abroad. Well, now Ebony is digging deeper to give you information that you can use, as we like to do here on Let It Be Known, give you information you can use, like you just had with the Bell Project. So check them out and keep checking us out. And again, go to bellproject.org and wherever you might be able to assist, whether it's a donation or whatever, give your time and effort to supporting the Bell Project. And keep supporting us here at Let It Be Known. We appreciate you, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thank
Let's go! Let's go, Flav. Hey!